Well, hello there, Dippers, and welcome back to episode 47 of the Knuckle Sammich podcast, the official MMA podcast of Sauce on the Side. As always, Dippers, I'm your host, Drake, joined by the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Thomas R. Shackelford.
Good afternoon.
And unfortunately, Dippers, we do not have our producer in the studio with us today, for he is out putting his rough 40 hours work week in. So, guys, today we will break down and talk about UFC Fight Night 146, talk about the winners and losers of that card, headlined by Junior Dos Santos and Derek Lewis, and we will talk about the upcoming fights we have this Saturday, UFC Fight Night 147, headlined by Darren Till and Jorge Masvidal. Card looks absolutely loaded for a Fight Night card. So, Mr. Shackelford, without further ado, once Leighton C gets into this building, he will drop the noise. Welcome to the Knuckle Sammich podcast with Thomas R. Shackelford, a Sauce on the Side production. Alright, so let's go ahead and talk about UFC Fight Night 146. Obviously, I said it was headlined by Junior Dos Santos and Derek Lewis. Junior Dos Santos was able to pick up the second round TKO over Derek Lewis. You had predicted this one correctly. What did you see in this fight by both competitors?
You know, within about 1 minute, you realized that it wasn't going to be a battle of technique. Both guys just...
You didn't know that going in? Well, Derek Lewis was on the card.
I know, but, you know, Dos Santos could have made it a lot easier with some footwork, a jab, and moving around a little bit. But one thing to his credit, Derek Lewis has got to be one of the quickest 300-pound men I've ever seen. And that may have been why, because I think at the beginning maybe Dos Santos did throw a jab, did move around a little bit, and Lewis was he was grease lightning. He was like a greased pig. The fight was pretty nuts. I mean, it was basically one guy would throw some haymakers and miss horribly, and then the other guy would. And I think Lewis knocked JDS senseless probably 3-4 times total. Just couldn't finish him. Same thing with Dos Anjos. And then late in the first, I believe Dos Anjos hit him with a spinning back kick to the belly, which we know is Derek Lewis's Achilles heel, and he bent over. I explained it to you like this. He looked like the King Soda Pop in Mike Tyson Punch-Out when he drops his pants and you punch him in the belly and he drops forward. That is exactly what Derek Lewis looked like. And then when JDS came in to finish him off, he threw the biggest overhand right you've ever seen and damn near knocked JDS's head into the third row. It went on like that for about a minute. He would bend over, JDS would come in, and he'd try to punch his brains out. That also happened at the beginning of the second, and then finally JDS did clip him. For both guys, I mean, in that division, whatever happens with DC, both of those dudes are still in title contention. I think that's how heavyweight always is. They're always one punch away, one fight away from title contention. That's just always how those top 5 guys are going to be at heavyweight. So
yeah, I agree with that. And to your credit, that is an excellent comparison with the Mike Tyson Punch-Out, because whenever I first started playing that game, that was one of the guys I got stuck on. And Derek Lewis is very, very similar to that, where you have to watch a little film on him if you're going to beat him. Like, you're not just going to go out there and hit him in the head, knock him out, because you're really not going to get any clean shots. And if you do, well, he's going to come back like a raging bull. So I definitely like the comparison there. So we'll go ahead and talk about some of the other fights that we had broke down on the podcast. Nico Price able to finish off Tim Means in a pretty vicious, 4.5 minute fight. What were the keys to victory of Nico Price other than just standing there and basically clobbering Tim Means?
That's it. Durability. I mean, Tim Means was... I love the Dirty Bird. He gets... People forget about him. He trains in Albuquerque, New Mexico at a gym that's not Jackson Wink. It's a smaller gym, but it's like a homegrown gym. It's basically the hidden secret of Albuquerque. And a few years ago, he was on a streak. He had a big fight lined up with Matt Brown, and then he's one of the guys that got caught up in that tainted supplement shit where they actually found out the exact supplement and lot number of the creatine he was taking had bad stuff in it, and they still gave him. It ended up only being a 6-month ban, but it was a ton of money. He lost that big Matt Brown fight. Otherwise, a lot more people would know him. He just basically put a whipping on Nico Price for about. It says the fight lasted 4 minutes 50 seconds. He beat up Nico Price for about 4 minutes and 49 seconds. His stand-up, if you've never seen him fight, he's a southpaw. He can fight orthodox too, but he was slapping. Actually, in the very last exchange, he's really good at using his lead hand to almost parry, like almost Jeet Kune Do style, like parry and hold that lead hand to the other guy. He actually hit an open hand palm slap to Nico Price, and it rocked Nico Price. And I'm not sure why he was mixing in those open hand slaps, but every time he was using them, it was putting Price on his heels. And then I don't want to say out of nowhere, because Price was in it. It was one of those, he was landing hard shots, but it was at a 10-1 clip. Like Tim Means was hitting him 10 times to Nico's 1, and then just out of nowhere he hits. It wasn't really an overhand right, and it wasn't really a hook. It was a bit of a mix of each, and it just flatlined Tim Means. I mean, it was over as soon as it landed. Had to be fight of the night. Those are two of my favorite fighters at 170, and we talked about it months and months ago. Nico Price. He's a dude to watch. I think he trained at ATT for a long time, but then he opened up his own gym. So I love hearing stories about dudes like that. They're doing their own thing. They're basically fighting to keep their gym open, and every fight the dude's in is a fight of the night. I don't know if he's a contender. I don't know that style of fighting can get you to that championship fight, but holy shit, it's like a cowboy. Like, he's always going to be, when he's on a card, I'll make sure I watch that card.
Yeah, sometimes, even if you're not the championship level guy, like just having crowd pleasers in there, like Alex Karasaris has made basically a living off of being a crowd pleaser. Same with the Russian Hammer. So, I mean, we'll take them when we can get them, because those seem to be more like a rarity in the UFC anymore. Speaking of the tainted supplements in Albuquerque, is Albuquerque, New Mexico, like the capital of the world for tainted supplements?
It might be. It's the fight. It could be called the fight capital of the world. Also, tainted supplement capital of the world, and also the highway of drugs.
Yes,
because I think as far as like law enforcement and like safety goes, like it's like a crossroads for all the major interstates, and like it's a horrible crime rate area. So they're also all their I wouldn't, unless I killed it myself, I wouldn't eat or drink a single thing in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Yeah, we need to put the GNC in Albuquerque, New Mexico under investigation ASAP. Last fight, actually, we'll throw in the Drew Dober fight, but Bagoy Ivanov was able to beat my man Ben Rothwell in a 3-round decision. What do you think went into this? Do you think partially it was, quote-unquote ring rust from Ben Rothwell, since it had almost been a 3-year layoff for him, or was just a fight that Bagoy basically went out there and took?
No, and you heard a lot of people saying that Rothwell got robbed. Basically, Ben Rothwell moved forward the whole time, throwing like 2-piece combos, and Blagoy was backing up the whole time, throwing 2-piece combos. They both got beat up a little. They both were pretty ugly looking by the end, but I think the significant strike count was like dead even. I watched it for the most part, and I kind of got the feeling that it was basically just a coin toss who would win. I think a draw probably would have been just as good as either guy getting a win. Rothwell didn't look horrible, but I would say ring rust, because I mean Blagoy is only like 5'10". You got to think the game plan for him is to mush him against the fence, get a takedown, and stay on top of him and just make it an ugly fight. The game plan shouldn't have been walk forward, throwing a 1-2, and taking his haymakers and just do that for 3 rounds. I couldn't have been a good game plan.
No, I've watched Bagoy fight one time, and I knew that was the exact opposite scenario that you want to end up in. Like, the guy is just basically a brick shithouse that can clobber you at any moment, so I wouldn't imagine just walking forward, trading punches with him would be the proper strategy to win a fight. So the last fight we'll talk about was Beneil Dariush, able to pick up a second-round submission victory over Drew Dober. What were the keys to the fight for Dariush, and did you see anything promising out of Drew Dober that you like with him moving forward?
Yeah, this is one that's going to piss Dober and his team off for a long time, I would say, because he was pretty much beating up Dariush from post to post the entire first round. Second round came out. Dariush I forget how he got the takedown, but he ended up on top. And then look, Dariush is a very, very good jiu-jitsu fighter, submission grappler, and he basically just wore Dober down until he worked his way to the submission. So Dober was on a 4-fight win streak. I don't know if you've seen him fight. I believe he's fought up at 170. Dude's legs, I weigh 240 pounds. I guarantee his legs are bigger than mine. Even his calves, we got a buddy that we always make fun of his baby calves, and I always joke because I've never done a calf raise in my life, and I got these big, sexy calves. Dober's are like triple the size of mine.
You've got anklet sock calves. Like, most people want to wear the tall socks, so that way it makes them look skinnier. I always wear tall socks, so my calves kind of just disappear in there. You definitely have anklet socks.
Yeah, and I try and go no socks forever. So, no, Dober, man, I would say he's young. He's actually 30, but he's 29, he's 30, but he feels like a young up-and-coming guy that maybe just got a little bit too overzealous in that second, and kind of fell into Dariush's game. And let's not forget, Dariush is 16-4-1, and he's been fighting in the UFC since 2014 or something. So he's a grizzled vet. He's fought a ton of guys. Not a huge knock to Dober. That's a loss you can live with and come back strong. So definitely keep your eye on Dober in the future. And as far as Dariush goes, he's kind of beat back another young up and comer. He's still up there.
Right. So we'll go ahead and head to UFC Fight Night 147. Mr. Shackelford will give you his picks for the final 4 fights of the night. And we'll start it off from, we'll make our way up to the headliner, since Darren Till is a guy that we both really like. We'll save that one for the end. First off, we have Nathaniel Wood opening as a minus 280 favorite over Jose Alberto Quinones, who is a plus 220 dog.
I was watching his fights last night, and they were saying his name, and I thought I really need to remember that because we'll butcher it tomorrow.
So we just went ahead and forgot.
I completely forgot. So you weren't
going to give me any heads up on that either. You said that's a fight that you wanted to pick.
I just remembered whenever you said Quinona. I'm sorry. I hung you out to dry.
If we didn't butcher names, would it really be Knuckle Sammich?
No. If people listen in and they're like, damn, I got every name right, they would probably turn off the dial.
Well, then they would just figure that we were picking fights in like Wichita, Kansas or something like that. So who do you like in this fight? I know before we got on the show, you talked about how you really liked Nathaniel Wood. So who do you like in this fight?
I like Nathaniel Wood. He is the top prospect of Brad One Punch Pickett. I don't know if you recognize.
Oh yeah.
Okay. One Punch, a WEC legend, an England legend. If you haven't seen his fights, watch the ones before he made it to the UFC. He was already pretty worn by the time he made it to the UFC. So check him out. But Nathaniel Wood, man, One Punch was always known for his and a lot of those British fighters are known for this. But his stand-up, man, he's got that crisp, beautiful stand-up game. Maybe a little bit better than... He basically is like Brad Pickett 2.0 is what I would like to call him. So whatever you see Brad Pickett do or have done, that's Nathaniel Wood. probably with a stronger punch.
If you have a stronger punch than a guy named One Punch,
I know
you're
that
doing something pretty damn good.
Pickett had that nickname, but I'm not sure that was. I'm not. I think he got that. Snatch, the movie Snatch with Mickey, one came out, and so that kind of became his thing. But I don't know that he had too many just one punch KOs, whereas this kid can have them.
With Brad Pickett, the nickname's almost misleading because he only had 7 knockouts out of 39 fights.
That's what I'm saying. But he wore that. He wore that hat. That is it a bowler cap? He wore that
a fedora.
No, it wasn't a fedora. God no. Brad Pickett would never wear a fedora. It was like a bowler cap or whatever style hat he wore. He wore before Snatch came out. It was kind of like it was his grandfather's hat. And then when Snatch came out with Brad Pitt, One Punch Mickey, that's kind of how he got the nickname off of that movie. So, there's a little movie history. If you haven't seen Snatch either, go see it. One of my favorite films. Anyways,
sounds like a movie Leighton would like.
Oh, definitely. It's a
just based off the title.
Oh shit, Guy Ritchie film, Lock, Stock, Two Smoking Barrels. That dude.
Huh.
Anyways, but no, you got me diving into movies. We don't even have Leighton here to talk movies.
We're still talking movies.
So. And
I'm like the least likely guy to ever talk about movies.
The Jose Quinones, he's a tough dude. He has a gigantic jiu-jitsu. It just says jiu-jitsu tattooed across his chest. You would think that he would be more of a ground game guy, but from the fight I watched, he was trying to wrestle the dude a bunch, but that was because the guy he was fighting was a really good striker. From what I understand, he is also a very good striker. He's kind of a wild man, so look for Wood to be the more crisp striker, to keep it in his ballpark of crisp striking. And it's in England. You can never, ever, ever, if it's a close fight, you can never go against a nice English boy.
See, I guess this is like the thing of misleading nicknames, because out of you think that if you had a tattoo on your chest that said jiu-jitsu, you'd have more than one submission win out of 9 fights. Am I wrong or am I right on that?
You're right. You're right. So
that doesn't make any sense to me. I love it though. It's almost as good as a tattoo as the damage. So we'll go ahead and talk about Volkan Ozdemir versus Dominic Reyes. This is a fight that I'm actually really, really looking forward to on the card. Maybe has potential, in my opinion, to be just fight of the night, just an absolute slobber knocker. Volkan Ozdemir opens as a plus 210 underdog to Dominic Reyes as minus 170 favorite. Who do we like in this fight?
This was a very tough one to pick. If this is a card you're betting on, this might not be the best card to bet on, to be honest, because every fight looks very, very close on
I think
paper.
there's one fight that you bet on in this one, and we'll get to that one in a minute. But yes, I do think that this fight, whenever I first looked at it, I thought, man, these are going to be some close-ass odds on this fight. And then you turn around, Dominic Reyes is minus 270.
So he's quite a bit of a favorite.
Big favorite.
Yeah, I think they're closer than that. I do want to pick Reyes, and it's not because I'm like on the Reyes hype train, which I am. I think he's a very good fighter. I think he was probably a guy that was just a hair shy from being in the NFL type guy. I mean, he's big, he's tall, he's athletic, he played college football. One of those dudes that's just on the cusp of maybe could have made an NFL team and been like a here and there type guy, but it didn't pan out. So he has that level of athleticism. He's tough, knocks everybody out in the first round. He just went 3 rounds with OSP, so we know that he has the gas tank to at least go 3 rounds. All that's fine and dandy. I'm picking him because he's a big, tall, he's a southpaw, which, a lot of these guys have trouble fighting southpaws. The athleticism's all there, but kind of what was the last fight we saw Volkan in? It was that Anthony Smith fight. And what did we just see Anthony Smith do? He came out and he clearly said it. He just didn't have it in him. He just wasn't the same that he was the previous fight. Some fights, guys leave too much of themselves in there. And I wonder if maybe that Anthony Smith that we saw against John Jones wasn't flat because of the war he had with Volkan. I'm actually surprised to see both of them in the cage so quick from what they were.
Oh, that was a hell of a fight.
Yeah, and Volkan definitely got beat up more than Anthony Smith. So I do like Volkan. He's got a big 1-2 punch. He's a strong hitter, pretty good chin. But I think I just wonder if this isn't too close of a comeback, and maybe he's not going to come out a little bit flat as well. If they were just head-to-head, both really fresh, coming off really good victories, I would still probably pick Reyes. But that fact that he just came through the hardest fight of his life, I'm going to go Reyes.
I think in this fight, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think the smart thing to bet in this fight would be a first-round finish. Either way.
Yeah,
I would bet that this fight doesn't make it out of the first round.
I mean, Volkan's nickname is freaking No Time. So if this... I do not see this going 3 rounds. I don't see the bell ringing in the second round. If it wasn't a first round finish, I would look for an early second round finish.
Yeah.
You might see maybe a feeler round, and then they go bananas in the beginning of the second.
Dominic Reyes doesn't know what a feeler round is, man.
Yeah.
So, I see him just bringing the fight straight off the bell, and then whether he gets knocked out or he knocks Volkan out, I think this fight's going to be pretty quick.
I would say if there was a line you could bet on that would be the way to go.
Yeah, I think that would be the smart thing to do there. So this fight actually is very interesting to me. Leon Edwards versus Gunnar Nelson. Gunnar Nelson is one of my favorite fighters. Leon Edwards, he's visually appealing to watch fight. He's fun to watch. Who do you like in this matchup? Gunnar Nelson is a plus 125 dog to Leon Edwards minus 155 favorite.
We love Gunnar, and he didn't necessarily look great in his last 2 fights, but the last one I think he got kneed in the balls insanely hard and just wasn't right after that, but he still ended up with a win. His loss before that was to... who was it poked him in the eye? Ponzinibbio. Ponzinibbio poked him in the eye. He had to take a long layoff. He was damn near blind during that fight. Never said a word to the ref. He just freaking got KO'd and then had to take a damn year off because his eyes weren't right or something. Leon Edwards, big southpaw Englishman, beat up Cerrone. He's had a ton of fights. Also, he's beat Peter Sabato, which is a damn good fighter too. He's the wrestler dude. I'm gonna pick Gunnar. When I look at Leon Roberts, I see a big, tall southpaw, good striking, athletic. But the Cerrone fight, Cerrone was in it the whole time, and he was really doing really well with his clinch game and mixing in trying to get takedowns. He damn near stole that fight from a gigantic Leon Edwards. And
Cerrone wasn't himself that fight either.
No, and he was coming off that Till fight,
Wasn't he sick prior to this fight? And he just basically, the story came out that he was sick, but Cerrone would never admit it.
Yeah, he had some issues going into it, but he had flown, Cerrone, he flew all the way to England. You think he's going to freaking fly all the way across the world to not fight? No.
He wouldn't drive down his street not to fight.
So Edwards is he's an older guy, but he's kind of an up-and-comer in that division. I'm still going to go Gunnar. I think Gunnar is still one of the best in the division who just had a string of weird circumstances where things just didn't pan out. I'm going to go Gunnar. And you even said he's kind of a substantial dog, right?
Yeah, he's a little bit of a dog. You throw 100 on him, you win 125, so that's honestly pretty good.
Yeah. So, these fights, they're just all so close. I wouldn't feel comfortable betting too many on this card, but if I were going to throw some money down, I would say Gunnar is a pretty good dog bet.
Yeah, and your lock dog, Shackelford's lock dog of the week, has been pretty hot lately, so I think I'm going to ride that train. And our headliner, one of our favorite guys to watch fight, Darren Till, opens as a minus 260 favorite over Jorge Masvidal, who is a plus 200 underdog. You want to hear something funny about Jorge Masvidal? Leighton and I were watching, just it wasn't the UFC. I think it was a Titan FC card, I think a previous guest, Shorty Torres, was fighting on that card. They brought Jorge Masvidal out into the center of the cage, like to recognize him in there, and they called him George Masvidal.
That's his name.
George?
George, yeah.
He goes by Jorge, right?
No, they call him George. It's George.
Since when?
His coaches call him that. I was watching his fights last night, and they were calling him George.
George?
Yeah.
I've never heard people call him George.
That's what his coach.
I've watched him fight like probably 5 or 6 times, and I've never heard George.
You know, maybe there. Did you? So it's not Jose Aldo. It's Jose.
Right. I knew Jose Aldo.
Dudes' names are pronounced different, but yeah. Last night I was watching some old fights. One of my favorite cards of all time, the fight for the troops, the first one where Tim Kennedy headlined. It actually happened down at the army base in Kentucky. It was just in just a little army, like a
Fort Campbell?
Yeah, it was in like a pole barn building on Fort Campbell. It was nothing but soldiers watching it. If you want to go back and watch some fights, watch that one. It's pretty wild. But yeah, his coaches were calling him George the whole time.
George?
Yeah.
I've never heard that.
Yeah, I swear, man.
So they should have been laughing at me.
They should have been laughing
because I was dying laughing.
I think I've always called it Jorge too.
Yeah.
Again, it was something I was watching last night, and they're like, George, you got to whip this dude's ass. And I'm like, why the hell does he call... Why is his name George, but it's spelled like that?
Jorge is way cooler than George, though.
It's way cooler. And he's from Miami. He's from Miami.
Yes.
You got to think that Jorge is more likable spelling in a very, very Cuban, Mexican, Latino heritage area.
Yes.
Nope, it's George.
George, wow. All right, who wins the fight?
This is a tough one. So our boy George has not fought since November.
George?
Yeah, I didn't.
Yes, you did.
I did not mean to do that. I swear. Much respect to boy George.
Are you surprised at my culture there? I was cultured in that.
Dude, yeah. You know, that's a big culture club pickup by you. Quick, what's your favorite culture club song?
I have no idea. I just know Boy George.
I only know one.
What is it?
Karma Chameleon. Karma Chameleon.
I've actually heard that one.
All right, back to fights. I don't know any Culture Club songs. How dare I for saying that? He has not fought since November 2017.
Wow, that's a good layoff.
And basically he had the huge win against Cerrone in January of 17. Then he has that loss to Damian Maia and then a loss to Stephen Thompson. Probably the two hardest people to fight in the division, and he could not get anybody to fight him. I don't know what was going on. I don't know if he was asking too much money. There was rumors of him and Nick Diaz. There was rumors of him and Darren Till.
Well, he's just a tough dude.
Well, and he is. And one thing that I didn't realize, he actually fought back in the Strikeforce days.
You want me to blow your mind even further?
He's only 34.
Wow.
And he fought, what were you going to say?
Okay, so this is going to blow your mind. You mentioned that he was from the Miami area. Who's one of the most notable fighters? Maybe not like actual, mixed martial arts fighters. Who's the most notable fighter from the Miami area?
Well, I was going to say... It's not who you were going to say.
Kimbo.
Oh, yeah.
He fought one of Kimbo's prodigies on a YouTube video.
No shit. Yeah. I forgot
he had
about
a guy named some guy named Ray that was Kimbo Slice's prodigy. He fought... If you are... and this goes back to whenever I said that he's just a tough guy. Like, if you're fighting Kimbo Slice's guys, you're just a tough guy.
Yeah, I forgot all about that. You're right. He was in that. What do they call those videos?
Were they dogfight or something like that?
I can't remember. I completely forgot about that.
It wasn't Reality Kings, was
it? No, that's where Kimbo did security for. So if you look back to his record, his first actual professional fight was in 2003. So no telling how many backyard fights he had at Kimbo's backyard. He's fought the best of the best. Rafael Sunsao, Joe Lozon. Let's see, Eve Edwards. He fought Eve Edwards. That's how far back this dude goes.
That's insane.
This is such a tough one for me to pick because he's actually a really solid wrestler. As far as submissions go, he's not a ton there, but as far as wrestling goes, I think he will actually have a better... If it's a wrestling match, he'll win. He'll win a wrestling match with Darren Till. He's got very good boxing. He's got very good kicks.
Look how jacked Masvidal was in that.
Was that him?
Yeah.
Oh,
Back in the day.
Yeah, he was on the juice.
Yeah, we are currently watching Jorge Masvidal versus Ray. It was the SMSP TV. I don't know what that is.
Yeah, he was juicing a little bit there.
He had to have been. He was massive.
Well, he's actually fought 55 in the UFC. His first laundry list of fights in the UFC were at 55. So what I'm looking for here, I'm gonna pick Till. Now, what we have to look for is Till gonna come out like he did against Cerrone, Thompson, all in those previous fights where he's controlling the range with his kicks, his jab, his movement. Or is he going to come out like he did against Woodley, where he was controlling the cage, but he wasn't really landing any strikes, and then rush in with a rear uppercut and just get smoked by a big right hand? That punch placement might go down as one of the biggest bonehead punch placements in UFC title history. You can watch it over and over, just leaping in against a guy who's known for a nuclear bomb of a right hand with a rear hand uppercut it's a bonehead thing to do. I mean, it's basically first day boxing shit, and he lost the UFC title because of it. But if he tries to do that against Masvidal, there's no reason to think Masvidal doesn't land a big right hand and put him down. I'm looking for Till to come out and be the guy that beat Wonderboy, the guy that beat Cerrone. He's going to use his Muay Thai. He's going to use that lead leg teep kick. He's going to use his leg kicks, hands up high, moving forward with a purpose, not the bounding in with his hands down and get hit by a big punch. Masvidal, though, if Till doesn't come in like that, Masvidal could easily win this fight. That's why I said it's a 50-50 fight. It's more what kind of guy is Till coming in as, and what the hell are we going to see from a dude that hasn't been in the ring in a year and a half from Masvidal?
Yeah, and Masvidal's going to bring it. I mean, his nickname's Game Bread.
I don't, he did a reality show, like basically almost like a Big Brother type show down in Latin America. You gotta wonder where his head's at. He's, like I said, he's been fighting since the year I graduated high school, 2003. It's been like 16 years. He's been doing reality TV. He can't get fights. He's coming off 2 losses, and I don't know. Tyron Woodley's still an ATT affiliate. He's trained down there, and that's where Masvidal trains. I don't know. Ben Askren, for some reason, in an interview this past week, he was talking about, because they're flying him out, he's expected to fight the winner of this. He said he's picking Till because he heard through the grapevine that Masvidal's not really training for this.
Wow.
So, when you're talking about an Askren who's not a liar, he's not going to say shit like that for no reason, and one of his best friends
he's honest to a fault.
Is an ATT affiliate. You got to think that he got that information through the grapevine of ATT.
Yeah.
Wow.
So... And that those guys aren't going to be happy if he's not training.
No.
Because they're putting their stamp on a product that may be half-assed.
And another thing about him, when he trained for Cowboy, he went out to... He wanted it because he was fighting him in Colorado. That was the first Denver card that Cowboy was going to be on. He flew out to Denver by himself. Because the ATD guys wouldn't go with him, because he had to get acclimated to that weather. So he went out a month early to get acclimated to the elevation. And I remember that because I thought, man, he's one of ATT's top guys. The only guy he took was just an up-and-comer fighter that was his friend. That was the only guy that went and trained with him. He paid for his own shit, did his own camp by himself with one other friend. And in my head, I thought, that's kind of a weird... Because you look at Din Thomas, who travels everywhere with Tyron Woodley, and he's one of ATT's top trainers. Woodley doesn't even really train at ATT. He trains in St. Louis at his own gym, and then he trains with Duke Rufus in Milwaukee, and Din Thomas comes there to be with him.
Right.
So you just never know where a guy's head's at that's been in the game 16 years. He's been off almost 2 years, and in my eyes already had a weird relationship with his camp. That's kind of hard to pick him because it's in London. So who's to say any ATT coaches are flying out with him to freaking London. You know what I mean?
No, I agree. And Darren Till is like the exact opposite of what you're explaining that Jorge Masvidal's been. Like, he's a young guy. He is hungry as hell, coming off of the loss to Woodley. I just have to show you something. Have you seen any of the weight cut pictures from Darren Till since he started?
I saw a bit of a video before the Stephen Thompson when he missed weight where he was going blind.
Okay.
Is that the pictures?
No, it's just a picture of him now.
All right, let me
weight
see
cut.
him.
You tell me your immediate reaction.
He looks big.
He looks massive.
Yeah, and he's got his head shaved, which is kind of fucking scary, to be honest.
Yeah, he looks scary as hell.
He does.
That's what I thought. I looked at that and
I
I'm
wonder, when is that from?
This was from this last week. It said steaming with a gorilla emoji 23 hours ago.
I'd like to know what he weighed right there.
Me too.
If he's 170,
how tall is he? He's
179 right there. I'm not worried. But if he's 189, 190 right there, because he looks lean as shit.
Yeah, he looks super lean. And whenever I looked at it, I thought he looks like, as lean as he looks like he's almost ready to go hop on the scale.
Yeah,
like that's how shredded he usually is. And I mean, he is absolutely a massive guy. And how tall exactly is he? I know he's pretty damn tall.
That's just another reason why this is so close. This is so close of a fight to call, because he has had weight issues. They said he was.
That's him on the scale prior. Doesn't he look? Yeah, he looks lean now.
Yeah, he looks close. What's his face? Pull that up. Let's see his face again.
There's his face there. His cheeks are drawn in, pretty bad. His face is pretty slim here. You see that you can actually see his cheekbones.
That just adds to another reason why in my eyes, I don't think this is a real bettable card. And I'll never lie to you. Like I said, that the last one you betted hard on, I said that I thought a lot of the lines were misleading. I thought some matchups were better for betting. This one is not one.
Yeah, you called that one for sure, and you went 8-1.
I would stay away from it. We also, they said Till would never fight 70 again after that championship fight. Yeah, so for him to get booked at 70 again was also a bit of a head scratcher.
I think you wait till Friday.
Yeah, if you are going to bet, you wait till Friday. If George comes out looking like a freaking... here's how I'm going to judge it. If George comes out and his hair's all long and his beard's shaggy and he's looking crazy, that's a good thing. Yep. Because that's what he looked like when he fought Cerrone. He was just training, manimal, had that Rocky... which one was it where he was fighting Drago 4? He had that Rocky 4 looking face going on. If Till comes out looking like Skeletor, you go Masvidal. Yeah. If Masvidal comes out looking soft, just doesn't look like the fire's in his eyes on the scales, you go Till.
Yep, I agree. I think this isn't one that you jump on early. I think you wait this one out. You have to see how things shape up Friday on the scale. So, just some little news and notes around the UFC. The biggest name, Conor McGregor, found himself in some hot water this last weekend. I believe it was in Miami.
Yeah, he was in Miami, actually.
He was in Miami, and he got arrested. I think that they actually put it on like strong arm robbery is what they put it on.
They put out the details later. He got into an argument with a guy and knocked the guy's phone out of his hand and then stomped it.
That's strong arm robbery.
Well, that's because phones are fucking $10,000. So the way that stuff works is like it's a money thing. So if you go steal $10 from a dude, it's probably a misdemeanor. If you steal $500 from a dude, it probably moves into felony range. So if that guy was carrying around a Motorola Razr from 2004, we're looking at $100. He probably doesn't get anything, but that dude's probably carrying around a phone as big as this iPad sitting next to us down in Miami. Yeah. And so it's a money thing. It's that phone, that property cost, and we don't have time to go into capitalism and shit here, but it's some bullshit when phones cost so much that you get in an argument with a dude and you knock it out of his hand, that when you get arrested, you get freaking strong arm robbery charges.
I feel like slamming somebody's phone and stomping on it is just like a welcome to Miami thing. I don't think that is even considered robbery.
If I took a trip to Miami, I would take 2 phones. I would just expect to get my phone knocked out of my hand.
You'd have a backup just in case. Does this do anything for his look in the end?
What the fuck? You know, he's the biggest star in the sport. You see this all the time.
Like Misha Tate even posted his mugshot on her Instagram account. And people,
it's huge. I seen at first I just saw fighting outlets carrying it, but then this morning I woke up, ABC News, Good Morning America were dropping. I'm like, this is the equivalent of like didn't Stephen Baldwin have some issue where he was smashing journalist cameras?
Yes.
Kanye's been in trouble, dude. To be honest, I've always leaned more towards the side of celebrity in issues like this, because I know for a 100% fact, if I was just trying to walk from place to place and I had 50 people, cameras and shit in my face, I would lose my cool more times. I'm actually surprised you ain't seen like a Matthew McConaughey go ballistic and just bite somebody's ear off or something, you know.
The only problem I have with this from the side of McGregor is that McGregor's the guy who built this brand, who wants people to be seeing him, who wants people to be taking pictures of him. Everything he does, he wants it to be on a camera, and he wants people to be able to see it. Like, you follow any of his social media accounts, Instagram, Twitter, everything. It is the most active of any athlete probably in the world. And for this guy to want to build this brand to where everybody sees him, where everybody knows who he is, to get upset about, I don't know what the circumstances were.
You got to deal with it.
Yes.
I mean,
it's just another thing.
That's the counter argument to it. I mean, fame and fortune's great, but it's a 24/7 gig.
Yes.
Fighting's not a 24/7 gig. We'll take a Pat Miletich for example. Pat Miletich, a legend of the sport, one of the best of all time, one of the best trainers of all time. He could walk down the street in almost any city in the world and people aren't going to recognize him because he didn't have that fame attached to him. He had the greatness, but not the fame attached to him. Whereas a McGregor, I mean, as far as championship goes, accolades, he eclipsed Pat Miletich in that area, but you know, other sides of the sport he hasn't. Training, stuff like that, commentating and all that, but he has the fame attached to him.
Absolutely.
And so he probably couldn't walk downtown in our street without a bunch of yokels, you know, eyeballing him. So,
in a perfect example of this, one that we've both seen with our own eyes, was whenever we saw the H-bomb in St. Louis.
Yeah.
So we were up at the NCAA Wrestling Championships in St. Louis, and we go to a bar, PBR bar, pro bull riding, bar.
A bar I shouldn't have been in.
Yes. But of course, you go into a PBR bar, and there's wrestling close by, you're going to run into the H-bomb. We see Dan Henderson just chilling up at the bar. Nobody's talking to him at all. No, and that's what threw me off. You and Daryl look at me, and you guys go, there's the H-bomb. I'm like, that's not him. That can't be him. Like, people aren't flocking to him. People aren't, running him down for pictures. And he is a celebrity. Everybody in the fight community knows who Dan Henderson is. He's maybe one of the biggest names in UFC history. And he's just sitting up there at the bar, just talking to people. We go over there and talk to him. And it was like he was basically undercover. Yeah. And nobody knew who he was.
Well, and the other thing, the bar was filled with nothing but like D1 wrestlers.
Yes.
It was like 400 people in a bar big enough to hold 100 people. And every dude in there was either a former wrestler going to watch wrestlers, or they were just freaking dudes that got lost out of the tournament.
Yeah.
And so really in that room, he didn't stick out like a sore thumb. But you're absolutely right. That's
the kind of community you think they would recognize H-bomb.
Yeah, I don't even think I recognized him. I think we walked by and you tapped me on the shoulder and were like, "That's Dan Henderson." I'm like, "No." And we walked by there and there's that little gorilla-looking bastard just drunk as shit at the bar, and you went up and talked to him. That's a great example. I mean, maybe Hendo knocks your phone out of your hand. What are you going to do? I mean, what are you going to do?
I'm not going to press charges.
No.
I'm going to run. I won't have time to press charges as fast as I'm getting out of that bar.
So what you're saying, Miami's filled with bigger pussies than St. Louis?
Yes.
There you go.
You have to be. So any other news and notes around martial arts or anything in that nature that you want to discuss before this ending of the pod?
As far as jiu-jitsu goes, you got Polaris is having an event this Friday. Wrestling in 2 weeks, which we will actually be, the whole basically Saucy Pod tribe will be down in Nashville to watch Wonder Boy versus Pettis.
No. We're not going for Wonder Boy.
Oh, we're going to watch Curtis
Blades. We're going
Blades
to watch Curtis
Big
Blades
Pretty.
versus Big Pretty.
That same weekend, the NCAA finals will be going, so that'll be coming up. Probably the biggest, just weirdest out of the news coming out, Paulie Malignaggi signed to fight with the same bare knuckle fighting as Artem Lobov. They signed him.
So they'll fight.
So they said I have got to get the one that didn't pay people was called the World Bare Knuckle Boxing Championships. That one's the one that didn't pay anybody and is probably never coming back. This one is just called Bare Knuckle BKFC, Bare Knuckle Fighting Championships. They're the ones that signed Lobov, but they came out and said if Lobov wins his first fight, then it'll be Malignaggi versus Lobov, which we will absolutely buy.
Yes, we have to watch
I mean, I may be down to rent just the Lobov one. I mean, I feel like that's why they signed him, is get names to him. Because I noticed I recognized a bunch of names on the cards before, but it wasn't any names that I was like, man, I have to rent this. We got to sit down and watch it. But with Lobov's goofy ass on there, and then especially, I mean, for everything that Malignaggi is, just weird haircuts, over-primped facial hair. The dude,
he does not look like a bare
was like
boxer.
a 3-time world champ in boxing.
Yeah.
He was a legit boxer. I cannot believe he signed it.
No, he does not look like a bare knuckle guy.
Because boxing's very different from bare knuckle boxing, and I'm jacked for it. Yeah. I don't care who Paulie Malignaggi fights. I can't wait to see him fight in the bare knuckle ring. I hope Lobov's ass wins that first fight so we can.
Dude, it's a bare knuckle fight. Do you think Lobov's ever lost a bare knuckle fight?
I don't know, but I mean, he's like 16 and 18 in MMA, so a lot of those were grappling type losses. So exactly. I'm expecting him to win, and I'm expecting the biggest bare knuckle fight of all time. The build up for that will be insane. I've been chomping at the bit to tell you that. I wanted to wait till on air to tell you that, though.
That's awesome. I did not know that he signed.
Playing for it. I'll start looking for the dates, but we've got some bare knuckle fights to rent pretty soon.
Yeah, that'll be absolutely amazing. And you know how Conor McGregor is building up his other guys' brand.
Oh, yeah.
Like, there's no doubt in my mind that we will get a face-to-face altercation between Malignaggi and the Conor McGregor crew.
Hey, that's actually the only Malignaggi said. I think that's maybe why he signed there, because he said like the first thing he said was like, once I beat up your boyfriend, like you have to avenge that loss. So like can you imagine McGregor trying to get a bare knuckle? Dana, I can do this. Imagine proper 12 on the ring, bare knuckle. I can't. I'm creaming my jeans just thinking about.
That's gonna be awesome.
Fights. I'm creaming my jeans thinking about the build up to an Artem Lobov and Malignaggi bare knuckle fight, just to see the social media posts from freaking McGregor.
Yeah, no, that is gonna be, like you said, the biggest bare knuckle fight of all time.
Can't wait.
I cannot wait. Anything else?
No, man. Have a good weekend, guys.
And on that note, for Drake, for Mr. Shackelford, Dippers, as always, stay saucy.